Hey, welcome to Hear Us Say It. I'm Paul.
And I'm Patrick.
And what are we going to do today, Patrick?
We are going to heap a huge amount of praise on one James Cameron, or Hamish Cameron for my Scottish friends. Hamish being the Scottish for James, as I quickly checked when I
Yeah,
thought of it a few minutes ago. Inside
just
joke for
looked it
me and
up.
Paul.
Just
Just
looked
looked
it
it
up.
up.
Literally 5 seconds before we went like we started
Yeah.
recording this. Checked it up,
I was
and
like, is Hamish James in Scottish? Yeah. Yes. So one James Cameron is going to be getting big props from us for all his amazing work, but not all his successful work, because his successful work is going to get a complete kicking from us. Because Paul, what happened to James Cameron?
I don't.
WTF, James Cameron? Why did he turn crap?
Yeah, this is going to be uncomfortable for James Cameron. Uh, like, no, not really.
Modern James Cameron, old James Cameron is fine.
Yeah, old James Cameron probably is going to look on this and be just like, yeah, that's a pretty good idea. Anyway, which is, yeah, so James Cameron, which has been in the news lately. If you haven't heard of his little franchise called the Avatar franchise, just a tiny
Oh,
indie.
really?
It's just indie.
Yeah. Playing in a
the,
few select small theaters with tiny screens. Nothing to
yeah,
do with massive IMAX money at all.
no, it doesn't use the most advanced technology to make blue people. So yeah, that's a bit mean. Yeah, so Avatar, which is Way of Water, has been released. Once again, it is racing to the which was box office kind of. Well, it's already won the box office race in 2022. It's now racing to one of the highest grossing movies of all time,
Yep.
which is so.
By
Which
the
is
time it's done, it's going to probably be in the top four, which will
mm,
mean out of the top five movies, James Cameron is going to have three of the top five grossing movies of all time. So that's an unqualified success. Like that makes him the most successful, financially successful director of all time, with no arguments from anybody possible anywhere.
yeah, like our piece here is in no way going to touch or it's not going to find a chink in the armor of his ability to make films that just
Oh yeah.
go to the bank. So
No,
which is
we're probably going to pick on the people watching for making those films the most financially successful films of all time, because Paul, Avatar 2, and Titanic, the three movies he'll have in the top five or six top grossing movies of all time, are three of his worst when
yeah.
you look at his filmography. So, shall we go and take a look at that? Shall we have a little gander at what goodness James Cameron has brought the world, and then how he ended up making loads of money out of movies that personally I don't particularly care for?
Yeah, sure, why not? I don't see why. I think this is what the whole video is about, right? That we're going to have a
Yeah.
look about, Yeah, so which is we'll start from the first movie that we believe is the first movie of his that we believe is one of the best.
Yeah.
One of the
Like,
best.
to be fair, like, okay, James Cameron started out with Piranha 2, The Spawning. It was his directorial debut, technically, I think. Everybody's got to learn somewhere. So that's a given. Okay. That's his, Steven Spielberg's The Jewel or whatever. This is, that was really good, The Jewel. But
Yeah.
Piranha 2, I cannot remember it very well. It's great that James Cameron directed it, but that's how he gets his foot in the door of I'm the director, the first chair on this particular thing.
Yeah.
What he does next, Paul, is Terminator.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty solid.
One of the greatest sci-fi movies of all time.
Yep.
Brilliantly made. Hilariously good for the budget that it had, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a metric that you can think of where Terminator isn't going to be classified as a good movie, let alone, an all-time classic, which is what I think it's established itself as?
Yeah, no, there's no way that Terminator is one of the classics that then moved into the kind of the halls of fame of sci-fi like movies now with its kind of CGI moment at the end kind of thing. Its original story of machine kind of, if you haven't seen it, a machine coming back in to kill the head of the rebellion, mother. So yeah, it's moved into the classic, into the annals of history of being one of the best sci-fi movies out there. So
And in a few different genres as well.
mhm.
So it's taken that time travel. You can't talk time travel movies without talking Terminator. You can't talk great practical effects on a budget without talking Terminator. You can't talk 80s massive beefcake without talking Arnold Schwarzenegger Terminator.
Yeah.
You can't talk, future war sci-fi. You can't talk just sci-fi in general. It had and has everything. It has a whole load of things. The club noir scene is still one of my favorites. I was talking to somebody recently about it. There is nothing in casting. Arnold Schwarzenegger,
Yeah.
come on, Sean Bean, who ended up doing a ton of films. You'll notice in his filmography, Sean Bean was there for the good years. He was with him through quite a few of his first movies. And Linda Hamilton, who,
Hmm.
let's face it, one of my heroes when I was a kid. Her and Ripley. I wanted to be those two people. And funny, James Cameron had a part in both the movies that are on that list.
Yeah, like it's just it's one of the best. Which is hard to like. How would you follow that up if you were to like one of the best
Well,
sci-fi
let's
films?
see if 1984 brought me, the success of having one of the greatest all-time sci-fi time travel robot movies ever. I think I'd just go. You know what? Ridley Scott did a good job with Alien a few years back.
Hmm.
What if I, 2 years after doing Terminator, said, I'm going to do Aliens, which will redefine the idea of a sequel because it completely changed genre
Yeah,
while
jump
also
genre.
being respectful. respectful. So it stopped being haunted house in space and started being full on kind of action horror movie in some ways. Again, a brilliantly quotable, I would say, and I would say this very carefully, an almost perfect movie. Um, Again, casting through the roof with Sigourney Weaver, Hicks Hudson. You've got Bill Paxton now stepping in to help Sean Bean, Paul Reiser, you name it.
Yeah,
Again, what's better than Terminator? Probably Aliens for me.
yeah. It's the only one that we can think of that probably beats that franchise. But yeah, Aliens is just a fantastic. As you said, it jumps genres. Like its practical effects and everything like that is amazing. The story about the APC is really good. The trickery in some of the shots and everything like that are all amazing. Storyline is just incredible. It's the if if not the perfect movie, it is a perfect sequel. Kind of thing.
Yeah,
You know.
it is in the halls of anytime there's a conversation about sequels, two films are brought up straight away. Aliens and another one that we're going to have to talk about in a moment because it's also James Cameron. So there you go. He proved that he could make one of the great originals in Terminator, proved that he could make one of the great sequels. And again, people forget if you watched this when you were younger, you probably cried or came close to crying because Lance Henriksen, Bishop,
Mm,
the emotional bond with the actual, synthetic human
yeah.
in the thing is strong enough. Not only do you want Sigourney Weaver to be just your best friend because she's the coolest person on earth, and if you ever got to grow up to be her, then Ripley is just a boss. Um, every level, like every level, it works, and it's better than a previous movie I just said that about.
Yeah.
So in 4 years or in 2 years, that's what he did. Paul, if you were to take a few years to make your next movie, um, what would you say you should do then?
Well, you should, design a whole underwater camera equipment kind of thing and, redefine some of the best graphics like houses in the world and make the abyss, which is what he did. To me, this is probably his first delve into the deeps of water kind of thing, which becomes a trend with James Cameron. I think he gets fascinated with with the sea after this one. But yeah, the abyss, which is once again another sci-fi movie, which is entirely filmed in a base underwater kind of thing. It is along the lines of kind of the third kind and everything like that. It's that kind of like mystery kind of where the world was fascinated by aliens and space, but instead of looking up, he looked below, and which is just great. It's a great kind of I guess he done time travel in space. Now he was doing underwater, which is just another kind of like place that we can't get to quickly, kind of isolated kind of area. So it's a brilliant one. It's more of a wonder kind of thing. From the other two are more kind of nice, really good, well put together sci-fi action films. Abyss is kind of more, you can see the influences in his later movies from this one, and kind of instilling that little bit of like mystery and wonder to the things. So
And to be completely honest, the challenge that he faced making The Abyss that made him the famous James Cameron that everybody hates to work with. Um, if you know go on YouTube, there's some great documentaries about the making of Abyss or The Abyss. It was, I think, it's when he got addicted to the I can do this, I can make this happen, I can will this into existence. I think this was, you know, this was his origin story of madman director of I can make it happen. And my gosh, did he make it happen? I rate Abyss very highly. I know some people aren't as enamored with the movie as I am because of a bit of a dodgy theatrical ending. There is a longer cut,
hmm.
but a bit of Cold War backstory in and out of the movie. You can't deny. Okay, would I say it's better than Aliens or Terminator? No. Is it worth being in the conversation along with them?
Oh
Yes,
yeah.
because it's incredible. It really is incredible.
It feels like it's the little brother or little sister of Aliens and Terminator, essentially.
Mm.
But it's one of his, probably because it's his fourth film, and this is where a style starts to kind of come out, and also a thing that he kind of gets fascinated in, which is underwater.
Underwater. Yeah.
So, but
So if that's your you know in a 5 year stretch, if you manage to do Terminator, you know one of the seminal sci-fi movies, Aliens, one of the great sequels, The Abyss, an unbelievable feat of technical filmmaking and overcoming obstacles, and then groundbreaking CGI. What do you do next? You take a couple of years so that in your first 7 years, you do all of the previous, but again, in Terminator 2 Judgment Day.
yeah.
So then you just use what you learned from The Abyss and you blow open the technical abilities and CGI doors. You just fire them right off the back of the van. Um, that's a reference to the Italian Job for anybody who didn't get. You're only supposed to blow the bloody doors off. Um, but then you go, well, just in case when people talk about sequels, they don't say that Aliens is maybe one of the best sequels of all time. I think Terminator 2 should also be the only other thing that people think of when they think, well, are there any good sequels? Run up to somebody in the street and say, are there any good sequels? And if they say yes, Terminator 2 or Aliens will be some of the first things out of their mouth. Guaranteed.
Mm-hmm.
Just guaranteed.
Yeah.
To say that this was uh, one of my favorite movies the day I saw it would be an understatement. I was absolutely and still am absolutely blown away by how the story was told, the storytelling, and the fact that it's still an entertaining action movie whilst being a great sci-fi movie, while being a great Eddie Furlong's haircut movie. Like it's a lot of things to a lot of people, Paul, and it's just about everything all at once.
Yeah, like it's, as you said, it's one of the, yeah. If it has to be mentioned in the same breath as Aliens in sequels, kind of thing. Yeah, it's my only qualms, which is more about the overall Terminator franchise, is the trailers kind of thing. Terminator 2 would be a even better movie without the trailer reveal, but like it's like it
That's not his fault,
no,
actually, to be fair.
no,
Yeah.
it isn't. But it's a solid franchise building. Like James Cameron has the ability to build franchises. There's no doubt about it. Like we've seen it with Terminator. We've also seen
Mm-hmm.
it with his coming into Ridley Scott's like Alien kind of franchise as well. He's able to build. He's a fantastic world builder, world extender, kind of director. Takes the time to kind of really make sure that you know or feel like you're living in or is in this world, kind of thing. And Terminator 2 is no exception. He gets the, like, I know that it was released in 1991, kind of thing. So like it's one of those things where like he gets the tone down of early 80s or late 80s, early 90s really well. Obviously he's living in it, but like when you look back at now, you kind of like, you're just like, oh yeah, no, everything feels like it's this, kind of thing. Like computers were a whole brand new thing, and um, yeah, everybody was still kind
He
of creeped about them and
he's
stuff.
he set a bar. He set the tone for a future. He set what the 90s were going to become with this film, because you couldn't phone it in anymore.
Hmm.
Without Alien or without Terminator 2, you don't get an awful lot of what turned out to be some of the great movies in that decade. Like, I'm sure if you ask the Wachowskis and people doing things like The Matrix towards the end of the decade, what would you have been doing had Terminator 2 never happened? I think there would have been a big difference.
Yeah,
Like, it really did shake the table and reset things.
I definitely think it inspired a lot of people. So like, and then from there, like, we've got another great action film, bit further away from the sci-fi films that he did previously, with True Lies, but it's no less. It might be the even babier brother of essentially the four films that came previous to it. But it's a fantastic action film, which is with an amazing cast. Once again, Arnold Schwarzenegger returns. He also has Bill Paxton, who is actually in Aliens, I think Terminator or Terminator 2, and now is also in True Lies.
Yeah,
Um,
he's in Terminator, Aliens, and True Lies. And Sean Bean is in Terminator, Aliens, and the Abyss. So yeah, he has a lot of repeat cast, which is great.
yes, which is obviously, it just shows that some people really like working with him, even though he can be a bit of a nightmare, as you said with some of the documentaries. But True Lies, yeah, it's brilliant. It's Jamie Lee Curtis in it as well. Like the casting was
Oh,
absolutely
stunning.
fantastic, kind of thing. Fun spy movie kind of thing. So like, it's not one of his. It's not one of the lesser of the films or anything like that. It's still a fantastic, talked about a lot, kind of movie. It is the more kind of, I would say, the more boring, not boring, less fantastical kind of element
Yeah,
to things, but still no lesser.
the thing I like True Lies. I rate True Lies very highly, because you remember when the Born Identity came out and everybody was saying, "Oh my god, this is going to kill James Bond," because this is now what James Bond is.
Yeah,
And then there was Mission Impossible had happened. It's like, oh, that's the new style or whatever. True Lies happened, and nobody pointed it out at the time. But looking back, True Lies was the first sign of, here's how you can do a fun action spy movie. And like Jamie Lee Curtis' stunning performance as just, her whole arc played by
yeah,
her was hilarious. Like you say, the cast were just pitch perfect, which made the film pitch perfect. But name another film that did what True Lies did anywhere near as well. I will give you all day, because people will bring things up and I'll go, yeah, but still. And then we go, oh no, that was a good movie. But True Lies, like the previous four films he'd done, was revolutionary, just in a different area.
yeah,
Um, and in a lot of ways, I think making Arnold Schwarzenegger's career again, giving him a chance to be taken seriously. And it didn't do Arnold any harm either, where his career was at the time. For anybody who was alive to know that Tom Arnold needed True Lies more than True Lies needed
yeah,
Tom Arnold. So yeah. But so Paul, in 10 years, from 84 to 94, there's five films that I would say are at least four of them, if not five of them. But as a five film run, I can't think of any director that has a five consecutive film run as strong as that.
no, we've tried. We've looked at, like, from Spielberg to with J.J. Abrams, which goes
Scorsese,
Ron
oh
Howard. I think
man,
Ron Howard was the
Ron,
closest one, I
Ron
think.
never got close. Yeah,
Like, kind of thing, but
and
none so strong as James Cameron.
and the people watching this video, get into the comments below and give us, but you have to give the five films that happened consecutively for a
Mhm.
director that were to this quality, just as a group of five. Not saying pick any five from Steven Spielberg's back
Yeah,
catalog, but an actual continuous run, especially in a 10-year period at that level.
yeah,
It's pretty impressive.
a feature film 5 movie run that is really good. So yeah, that's the better the yeah. So once again, try find the five that you from another director, kind of thing. But yeah,
Bet you
that's the
can't.
better half or better start than most directors probably had.
Yeah. And yet, Paul, if you look at lists like top grossing films of all time, as we mentioned, that James Cameron's name is all over, none of those movies are in it.
No.
The movies that are in it are the ones that we have to talk about next. Yet, if you look at the 100 greatest movies of all time,
Yeah.
the ones that we're about to talk about aren't in it. So money does not a great film make. Now, look, I'm not going to judge anybody for what they like to go and see. If you love Avatar and Titanic, an incredible feat. If you love these movies, please don't be upset. Not saying that you shouldn't love them. Not saying that they don't deserve to make money.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just saying that the other movies that we've just talked about, I would put a lot of them in my top 10 movies of all time.
Yeah.
Like Terminator 2, Paul, Aliens,
Yep.
Terminator, any of these things that you would feel uncomfortable. I said, Paul, I'm taking 3 slots out of your top 20 movies of all time, and I'm choosing what they are.
Yeah.
And they're going to be from James Cameron. You would probably calm down because you know I'm about to put a Terminator, an Aliens, and probably a Terminator 2 in there.
Yeah. Like that's the thing. I think on everybody's lists for top films and stuff like that, at least one of those five are going to appear in it at some point, like
Yeah.
kind of thing. Um, but for the next three, though, as you said, this is where it kind of gets difficult because yeah, they are. Look, James Cameron is bulletproof, as we said before. These three films make him completely bulletproof. So our kind of trying, not even just pointing out the fact that maybe he's gone in a different direction kind of thing and maybe it's not as good as his past stuff, is in no way going to really affect him. But
No.
like we've already said, the Avatar franchise and Titanic like are the next three films. So Titanic, Avatar, and Avatar 2 Way of Water, these are the next ones. And just from a quality perspective, for us, it
Yeah.
just feels not as good as the five films that came before it.
It's the downward part of the graph. Now, money wise, it's the upward part of the graph,
Yeah.
but it's definitely the downward trend. But I think, Paul, when you look at it and talk about it the way we just did, you can see, because you already mentioned the abyss is where you could start seeing that it's an obvious link to the fascination with the underwater world and the
Yeah.
idea of going finding the Titanic and seeing the Titanic and all the documentaries he did then about underwater exploration. It's obviously a passion, and you know what, I love him for that, and I think that's great. Have your passions. An incredibly skilled individual who's able to manifest things the way he can bring them to life. He did bring Titanic to the screen, a big, long, massive romance story where a ship, oh, spoiler alert, sinks at the end. It was also a difficult film to make,
Yeah.
which leads me back again to the Abyss and the Terminator 2s and his willing it into existence. I think Titanic should have been a warning to us all because what came after was, again, Avatar, more technical challenge. Avatar 2 was 13 years or something, trying to invent technology and bring it all to the next level. And it also happens to be called The Way of Water. So should we have seen this coming, Paul? Because in
Well,
1997, so after his 10 years, it took him 3 years then to get to Titanic.
yeah. So
I don't think it's a bad movie. Do you think it's a bad movie?
no. I think it might be a little bit too long. But overall, it's a fascinating movie. Great storylines, everything. The casting once again is very good.
It's climbing Everest because it's there in some ways. It's Titanic was made because he could.
Yeah, like it feels very much like a big bang kind of movie that he was trying to focus on rather than kind of more the storylines and I guess like yeah, it's just a weird one. It's just, but it's kind of weird because it's like probably like two steps down from his work originally, which is still on James Cameron's level is still better than a lot of people kind of thing. It just felt like he was able to know who to target at the right time with the right thing, and as you said, willed it into existence, and then
Yeah.
which forced us, which made us into the financial boom it was.
Yep. and had the clout to be able to muster said finance to make expensive movies and make big budget stuff, and he's still proving that. And I doubt anybody's going to be turning him down because he's able to get them a return even on his most expensive movie, which is his recent.
Mm.
He's making the studios money. I don't have an issue with Titanic. I guess my thing for anybody out there that's, and there is an argument or a criticism to be leveled at you and me, Paul. So I'm gonna step out of the two of us for a moment, and I'll be the third hand here, going,
Okay.
"You're just a couple of sci-fi nerds. The reason you love those original movies is sci-fi, 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 sci-fi." At which point I say, I'm including True Lies for a reason. I think it's a great film, and I think it's a proof of entertaining storytelling. And Titanic, would you rate it above? Where would you put it? And this isn't for you, Paul, but I mean, anybody at home is going, "Oh, but Titanic's amazing." Yeah. Now rate it in the all-time James Cameron movies.
Yeah.
If you end up putting it in your top four, I'll be a top four. I wouldn't be surprised. If it gets any higher than that, I'll be very surprised.
Yeah. The
Like
top.
very surprised. It's not making his top three. For me, it's not making his top five.
But that's yeah. No, I'm. The reason we're doing this is because I'm the same. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's very difficult to put in the top three of his movies, like and that's yeah, as you said, excluding Avatars, and just having the Titanics and the rest that we mentioned. I think it's very hard to put it in the top three. I know there's people here who will put the Avatar franchise in their top three, kind of thing. But man, if the Avatars are your introductions to James Cameron, go back and watch his backlog. I think you'll be more fascinated with the stuff that he's done previous to those two movies. Um, just
And we have to talk about Avatar now, Paul.
yeah.
We can talk about the avatars, I guess, because that's
Mm-hmm.
from 97 to 2022. That's, oh my God, that's 25 years. That's 25. I feel really old right now. That's 25
Yeah.
years. And that's two movies in 25 years, both of them Avatar related. I'd
Mm.
say, and I know did lots of other work and did lots of other things, but let's just say for a filmmaker making big budget directorial stuff, I mightn't have gotten Avatar. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's just not for me. I try to be nice about anything that I don't like. I usually say, well, maybe it's just not for me. I've really tried with Avatar, and I think it's visually impressive
Mm-hmm.
in lots of ways.
Agreed.
I don't even know if it's the most visually impressive stuff I've ever seen. Like Top Gun Maverick is more visually impressive to me than either Avatar. Uh, I know maybe that's unfair because it's like comparing an animated movie to, because that's what Avatar is. It's a massive animated movie. Um, I, I
Yeah.
don't I don't get it, Paul. I think I need you to step in here and tell me why Avatar or Avatar 2 should even be considered in his top 5 or 6 movies.
I think, see, this is the thing. For myself, anyway, if you look at his backlog of work, it's like 2 to 3 years are the difference of when he starts making them. It feels like he got in his own head for between the Titanic and Avatar movies. I know
Avatar.
that everybody's been saying that he has been saying that it's taken him 13 years to kind of solidify the Avatar kind of franchise and stuff like that. Um, Before he started filming it, and like fair play. So if he's taking this if he's taking this kind of approach like an author would in probably a book series kind of thing, it's fair play to him. But it feels like the longer he has time to focus in on something, the more it kind of gets, I guess, bogged down in a lot of other ways. Like with Terminator Aliens, which goes Abyss, Terminator 2, and True Lies, they come fast and heavy, quick, and every 2 years, 3 years they're out, kind of thing. I think he may, for me, has gotten in his own head of kind of building this fantastic world, and which goes, it's to me, it's just not as good as some of his past work, kind of thing. Not to say that it also isn't original. There's I
Mm.
know it's borrowing from parts and stuff like that, but it is one of probably the more like original kind of like IPs out there, kind of thing.
Yeah,
But
it's very
obviously,
very basic and very kind of remedial almost in the story itself, though. Like it's, and I think you're being very kind. You're being very accurate. Don't get me wrong. I don't have no disagreement, but I think you're being kind by saying that it's original, because you're right. It is. But boy,
It's
like it's comic strip cartoon level of,
it's not the
storytelling.
it's not the yeah it's not the best original IP out there and stuff like that. It's good. He's good at world building, and like he's but filling that world overly with people living in it has been hard. And like the storylines in which he's decided to focus in on are have also been difficult to kind of go through, because although people are maybe happy to kind of watch storylines that have probably been recycled and removed and changed around and then put into this new kind of world kind of thing, it's very hard to disconnect yourself if you are, like, I guess, an avid, not even an avid, but like you enjoy storytelling, you enjoy kind of movies and TVs and stuff like that. That this Avatar storylines have been essentially done before in different ways, in better ways and stuff like that. Like, Dancing with Wolves, Pocahontas, which is the famous one, kind of thing. That kind of, like, it's all that.
Yeah, and it's not even just that they're not bringing anything new. There's more character development and storytelling in a 1984 action movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger saying "I'll be back" than there is in Avatar. So if Terminator is beating you on a story level, and it was made it was a mid-budget short film by today's standards, because you don't get to do 3 hours back then. Yeah, it doesn't stand up to scrutiny to his own work, and that's the thing. That's why I keep bringing it back to his own work, because I don't want to be seen to be unfair, even though I know I'm being unfair. Paul, I think you're the one that's being fair here. I just uh, simple maths. I don't think that the direction, like you say, he got lost in himself. I think the obsession took over, and the obsession wasn't with storytelling any longer, not in the actual constructed version of telling a story. I think it was world immersion. That's why Avatar's big thing is see it in IMAX, see it in 3D, be amazed by the things that are floating around you. That's a mechanism, but that's not storytelling.
Yeah.
And that's not a story either.
No, we've talked about this. Like, this is probably a continuation of a story that we did before, which is recently enough.
Linked up
Which is
above.
essentially about the films that are kind of more one trick ponies. They focus on one element of essentially of filmmaking and do it really really well. The Avatar films are just that they've done the visual part really well. They've like I guess two parts. They've done the world building part, like, the structural part of a world and stuff. But the biggest problem has been the filling of that world and, excuse me, the telling of the stories in which they're trying to tell. And I think you're right. I definitely think that James Cameron has focused on creating such a fantastical world, kind of thing, for the last couple of like years, that he has not focused on other elements of the movie making kind of process. He has not focused in on storytelling. Like he has, to be unfair, they're shit stories, like, kind of thing. You
Yeah,
know, to me they
they're
are
basic.
not. They're yeah. They like give the audience some credit that they understand these kind of things, but they understand basic storytelling, and give them a little bit more kind of, I guess, subterfuge and intrigue and stuff like that. Like, you can't base all of your intrigue on Pandora itself, kind
Mm-hmm.
of thing. Because eventually we're going to be there for like, there's three other movies coming out. We're going to be in Pandora a lot. So, like, the whole mystery of the world is going to slowly fizzle out. And unless he has the ability to essentially, like, build upon the world building that he's done, like John Wick has done with John Wick and John Wick 2, that I keep going on about, like, which he hasn't been able to do to our opinion, for In the Way of Water,
Yeah,
it's going to get very boring. Not because we're going to know it all, you know? So, like,
it's it's kiddie level stuff.
like if we get to the next day, if we get to like Avatar 5 and they leave Pandora, it's going to be such like it's going to be such a letdown that it's just like, okay, well the well is empty in Pandora, so now we're going back to Earth.
And you know what? Like, again, to do it through comparison, Paul, what you've just said, if I said to you, okay, there's a movie about a bunch of aliens and a bunch of Marines, and it's going to be called Aliens, do you think that that's going to have a whole lot of story depth to it? Not with that description.
No.
Yet watch Aliens and then watch Avatar and see which, never mind, because they both had a world built very well by a fantastic, a filmmaking, an auteur, like somebody who is amazing. Please bear in mind, everybody, that we're saying this out of love for James Cameron's work.
Yeah.
This is incredible. But there's no comparison. And I'm not just talking, character development, just simple plot, simple storyline, simple anything. There is more intrigue. There is more nuance, more layering to the thing with machine guns and aliens than there is to Avatar that had a whole 3D world created with an entire ecosystem and a laudable message when it comes to ecology. Absolutely. Loving the message. But the message is not the whole film, or at least a message cannot be a whole film.
Yeah, you're not like Greta Thunberg's Avatar or advertisements, company. Like Avatar has a message, it has a good one. That's our the way that we're building worlds and stuff like that. Our way of we don't have a balance with nature is essentially that like we prefer to destroy us because of corporate and all that kind of stuff. It has a very strong message, kind of throughout the films. But like my problem is that there is nuances with the characters, but they're so missed. They're so glazed over. Like the Colonel from the first movie, Avatar. The reason that he is the way he is, that he hates that planet so much, is the fact that he was one of the first people on it, and the scars across his face was pretty much the first month he was on the planet. You know, so like I'm sorry, but if you were dropped on a new world and like you were meant to survey us and kind of like have a look at us, and the first thing you said you get attacked by pretty much everything, you're gonna hold a grudge against the world. But the thing is that like I had to look into that. There's not much. There's not much on the character development of that Colonel. He just seems like a psychopath, kind of thing. That and my problem with it is good villains make good storytelling, and he is presented as a two-dimensional character, kind of thing. Whereas there is actually a third dimension to the character, but it's so hidden within secondary fucking material that so
And again, the underlying plot and story that are used mean that all of those things will remain essentially on the shelf, which is where the comparison, as we have to always do, because there's one great litmus test for all these things. How would Avatar 1 and 2 compare to the Fast and the Furious franchise? Surprisingly similarly. And I respect Fast and Furious quite a lot because it knows what it is, and it is family and cars. Well, it got away from the underground racing scene so it could get into the overground action scene. And you know what? All the respect in the world, because nobody's ever going to be running around saying that Fast and the Furious, even though they joined the $1 billion club with one of their entries, is this is highbrow filmmaking. This is the best ever. No, you can enjoy it. Enjoy Avatar, everybody. Please enjoy Avatar. Ignore my opinion on Avatar 1 and 2. But at no point, please, if you're ranking his movies, please, from a full story, if you're technically ranking them, fine, put it wherever you need to put it. But if you're taking it as a filmmaker making film, you should not be talking about putting his most recent movies towards the top, because his career, as is evidenced by his IMDb page, is a lesson in obsession, maybe taking you away from what was one of your true gifts. And he is an amazing filmmaker, but he's forgotten how to be a good storyteller, I think, or that story has to be central to what he's doing.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I definitely agree with that sentiment. It's not, and as much as people thinking that it's going to be harsh, we're doing it out of a love of a person who has shown us so much good stories, kind of thing that we just want to like. I guess our bottom line is we want the Avatar franchise to succeed, but we want it to succeed not just because it looks pretty. We want it to be the story that we want it to be. We're just looking
Yeah.
for that spark that James Cameron has shown to have in earlier work. I
I
think
keep
that's
sitting through the damn things and they're long. I want them to be better, Paul. There you
Well,
go.
that's the other thing is shorten them up, man. Like just because you did one, like the Titanic for 3 hours and it hit the top like spot in the films doesn't mean that you have to make them all 3 hours. Um,
Yeah. Anyway,
just on a little note and kind of things, which is we can back this up with a lot of information as well, which is the audience numbers on these from Rotten Tomatoes as well also kind of backs us up that the Avatar franchise and Titanic are not as big of an audience pleaser as some of his earlier work, kind of thing. Just to kind of put it in more perspective when we were looking into this, that there is we are siding with the audiences more than we are siding with kind of the box office numbers, kind of thing.
yeah. And look, Avatar, the most recent one, has a skewed number at the moment because it's getting all the love in the world. That number will come down over time. Paul, I'm not going to go over any ground that we've already covered, but I will say, moving forward, I don't like that if we did this, excuse me, if we did this in 4 years' time, his IMDb page is going to have three more avatars instead of another True Lies, or taking something and doing what he did with Aliens, or
Yeah,
even his own work doing Terminator 2 after Terminator, or The Abyss. That's one of the other things that makes me sad. It's not just that the past shows that there's something's gone wrong, in my opinion, with the way James Cameron's career has gone. Obviously not financially, but I really hope that it takes a turn back the other way, so that we can not have another six avatars after the next three or whatever is left.
yeah.
I hope that it doesn't become more of that. I kind of hope before he finishes his run that we get a few more abysses and a few more True Lies.
Yeah. Yeah, I do. Okay, so I do. Yeah, I agree that I do. I do want him to spread himself out a little bit more and do other things and just becoming essentially more known as the Avatar, the person who invented the Avatar franchise. We want to see him take on other projects and everything, other than just the Avatar franchise. But my thing with the next couple of years, hopefully it'll go back to form in the sense that because he's going to make these pretty much every 2 years, or they're going to be released every 2 years,
Yeah.
maybe we might be going back to the form in which he releases good movies every couple of years. Maybe after this one we might get a good story, and then after this kind of thing, who knows?
Who
Um,
knows? Yeah,
but
hope for the best.
so, if you think we're wrong, so first of
And
all,
many of you do. So
yeah,
please let us know in those comments.
yeah, in the comments, rank the movies that that we've talked about. Kind of except for Piranha 2, we don't mind not being on the thing. But out of essentially his eight recent, or the eight films that we talked about, in depth, tell us how you rank them, and yeah, tell us your opinion of how you feel about James Cameron. Has he lost his way, or do you think that he's even better than he was, kind of thing? So, get down into the comments, and we would love to hear you out, because you've heard us out.
You've heard us say. Now,
So
I don't want to get into whether or not he's a nice person or a good person. We're only talking about the filmmaking output and skills. Because I've never met the guy, so I'm not going to go off. It's like everybody else we talk about that we don't personally know, Paul.
mhm.
I don't want to get into the whole, well, it doesn't matter because he's a mean man. Okay, fine, but that's not this conversation.
Yeah,
I don't know him, so I don't know how mean he is. But yeah, I would be very interested to see how many people agree or disagree with us on this. But particularly, and I have one big shout out, and I think we should do this on the social media as well. Anybody out there that can name a director and pick 5 films
yeah,
that they did consecutively that are stronger than James Cameron from 84 to 94, I would love to hear it. I want to hear those nominees. We got to find a way to get this out on the socials.
yeah. No, we will.
So
We
share
definitely
with
will.
your friends. Ask everybody. It's a great game. We've been wrecking each other's heads by
Yes.
suggesting people and going, no, close, but no cigar.
Even my favorite Del Toro isn't it doesn't have the 5 films, because there's a few
There you
films in
go.
there that's like, even I'm like, you know, and I love the guy. But yeah, so name a director that you can find that has the top three. Now it has to be consecutively. It can't be just out of the backlog or anything like that, and it has to be feature length. Like a feature film. It can't be TV show or short or anything like that as well.
Yeah.
That's the game. Which is, so we'd love to see that. Which is and see if you can beat us. Thank you very much for listening to us. You'll hear us again next week, same time, same bat channel. I'm gonna get that in one day. Which is, but yeah. Do you want to add anything else at the end, Patrick?
No, only that I've loved being mean to a filmmaker I respect so much.
Yeah, it hurts a little, but yet also makes us feel good. I don't know.
Next time we're gonna kick the crap out of Del Toro and Michael Mann, and who else? Who else is actually Steven Spielberg? We're gonna pull Steven Spielberg apart. Let's do that.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks very much, guys. I've been Paul,
And I've been Patrick.
and we've been Hear Us Out.
See you next time.